Sword of Coming Episode 11. In the previous episode, tensions quietly escalated as Fu Nanhua and Cai Jinjian strolled through the town, each secretly carrying their own ambitions and fears. Cai Jinjian, increasingly dependent on Fu Nanhua, masked her anxiety over the cloud rootstones and the threat posed by the river severing True Lord. Meanwhile, Fu Nanhua, though outwardly calm, wrestled with a wavering Dao heart as Cai Jinjian's beauty and charm unsettled his resolve. Their conversation drifted toward Chen Ping'an, whose innocence and purity only fueled Cai Jinjian's spite. Yet beneath her composure, something darker stirred. As the pair approached a quiet crossroads, Fu Nanhua regained clarity of purpose, only for everything to be shattered in an instant. At the end of the previous episode, a thin boy suddenly burst from a nearby alley and launched a brutal, lightning-fast attack on Cai Jinjian, leaving Fu Nanhua stunned and frozen in place. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. Upon returning to his senses, Fu Nanhua immediately inspected his surroundings in a meticulous fashion, even going as far as to inspect the rooftops of the surrounding houses. Every corner, every shadow, every possible hiding spot drew his careful attention. He needed to make sure there were no lingering threats, no sudden attacks that could catch him off guard. Once he confirmed the immediate area was safe, he took a deep breath, steadying himself. He neither stepped forward nor retreated, he remained perfectly still, like a predator observing its prey. Instinctively, he reached for his jade pendant, a small talisman that had always served as a source of comfort. But his hand grasped only empty air. Even so, he murmured an incomplete Taoist mantra, not for mystical power, but as a way to anchor his racing thoughts and calm his heartbeat. If his heart were a small boat on a choppy lake, the mantra was the anchor preventing it from being swept away by panic. Carefully, he shifted so that his back faced a wall, positioning himself defensively as he edged laterally toward the crossroads of the two alleys. Every muscle in his body was taut, primed to react at the slightest provocation. His eyes were locked on Chen Ping'an, who stood next to Cai Jinjian, now lying in a puddle of her own blood. Chen Ping'an's posture was slightly forward, aggressive, yet cautious, as if ready to defend himself at a moment's notice. Their eyes met in a tense standoff. A silent clash of intent, Fu Nanhua seeking answers, Chen Ping'an merely trying to survive. "You killed her?" Fu Nanhua asked, though the truth was obvious from the scene before him. Chen Ping'an said nothing. In his hand, he gripped the murder weapon, a porcelain shard smaller than a palm, its tip deadly sharp. Blood coated his fingers, though it was unclear whether it came from Cai Jinjian or his own injury from holding the shard so tightly. Fu Nanhua scanned the alley, ensuring no one else was watching. Amidst the grim reality, he felt a strange mix of absurdity and relief. His gaze finally fell on Cai Jinjian. Despite the gruesome injuries, her natural beauty persisted, her chest rising and falling faintly, her life slipping away. The resilience of her body, forged through years of cultivation, meant her death would be agonizingly slow. A faint smile touched Fu Nanhua's lips, though his eyes gleamed coldly as he asked, "Why did you kill her? There was no feud between you two. Was it merely revenge for that prank in Clayvase Alley? Since when has this town turned so lawless? Have you never heard of the principle of an eye for an eye? Taking a life demands a life in return." Chen Ping'an stayed silent, unmoving, his resolve unshaken. Fu Nanhua began a slow, deliberate advance toward him. He understood there was no chance of saving Cai Jinjian here. This was no Dawn Cloud Mountain, where immortal energy could restore life. Here, mystical powers were restricted, and no terrestrial god or golden arhat would intervene to preserve her life. Exceptional talents could die under ordinary circumstances, and that was the harsh reality of cultivation. Fu Nanhua had braced himself for danger, but not for such a sudden, brutal killing, achieved without legendary weapons or overwhelming mystical skills. Cai Jinjian had fallen in the blink of an eye, felled by someone seemingly insignificant. Fu Nanhua's astonishment mingled with a growing sense of opportunity. Though outwardly solemn, he recognized that Chen Ping'an's actions had spared him a great deal of effort. Where he had prepared for combat or subterfuge, The task was already accomplished. Fu Nanhua addressed Chen Ping'an, his tone formal and commanding, aimed not just at the boy but at the unseen sages overseeing the town. He laid out a moral justification for any action he might take, ensuring that both local authority and his own reputation remained intact. Internally, he was elated. The potential obstacle of Cai Jinjian, a formidable cultivator, had been eliminated without effort on his part. Furthermore, the 2 pouches of gold essence coins she carried could now be claimed freely, along with any hidden treasures she might have brought from Dawn Cloud Mountain. He passed her body without a glance. The scent of blood, rather than invoking fear, stirred a sense of anticipation within him. As he closed the distance to Chen Ping'an, the young boy kept retreating, maintaining a dozen-meter gap, his hand still bleeding from the porcelain shard. This continuous bleeding confirmed Chen Ping'an had never loosened his grip, displaying a resilience and determination far beyond his years. Fu Nanhua admired the boy's potential, imagining a different life for him. Had fortune been kinder, Chen Ping'an could have joined an army, caught the eye of a high-ranking general, and been rewarded with a cultivation method capable of transforming his body over decades. Fu Nanhua even joked about the possible height of his achievements, smiling at his own humor. Still advancing, Fu Nanhua questioned the boy about his actions. He marveled at Chen Ping'an's ability to kill decisively, without hesitation or lingering remorse. Unlike Fu Nanhua himself, who had trembled after his first kill and needed long moments of calming mantras, Chen Ping'an had acted as naturally as if on a leisurely stroll. How could such a child overcome the mental barrier of taking a life so effortlessly? Chen Ping'an's face suddenly shifted. The shock and horror he displayed suggested he saw Cai Jinjian alive again. An illusion intended to deceive. Fu Nanhua instinctively turned to look, only to realize too late he had been tricked. By the time he returned his gaze, Chen Ping'an had vanished from sight. In that same instant, Chen Ping'an launched his counterattack. He took 3 measured steps, then forcefully pushed off with his left foot, propelling himself high into the air, using his right foot to spring off one of the alley walls. He changed direction mid-air, his left hand raised menacingly toward Fu Nanhua. In that precise moment, he embodied the image of an eagle hunting a snake, swift, predatory, and unrelenting. In the private school was a small cottage that had no plaque hanging above the entrance. And inside the cottage, Qi Jingchun was in the process of playing out a game of Go according to a manual. It was not a historically famous game, nor was it a competition between masters. The manual dictated every move, yet even as he prepared to place a white stone onto the board, Qi Jingchun hesitated. A faint sigh escaped him. He withdrew his hand, leaving the stone hovering just above the board, an inch away from where it was supposed to land. Qi Jingchun remained seated upright, his scholarly aura undiminished by the years he had spent in the town. Once a revered sage and former master of Mountain Cliff Academy, one of the 72 academies of Confucianism, he was now bound to this town as a form of atonement. To the townspeople, the passing decades had seen teachers come and go, each appearing different, yet all emanating the same quiet, dogmatic, and stern scholarly presence. None realized that every single one of these teachers had been Qi Jingchun himself. The same man, concealing centuries of wisdom beneath a simple exterior. With a movement as effortless as a passing breeze, Qi Jingchun's soul left his body, manifesting as an ethereal figure in flowing white robes. His consciousness drifted swiftly across the town, arriving in a blink of an eye at the scene in the alley where the chaos had unfolded. His first glance fell upon Cai Jinjian, lying in a puddle of her own blood. Her soul flickered like a flame struggling against the wind, barely clinging to existence. Qi Jingchun then arrived beside Chen Ping'an and Fu Nanhua. Fu Nanhua leaned back slightly, his mouth and eyes wide with shock, confusion, and despair, his handsome face contorted with disbelief. Chen Ping'an, suspended in midair in a forward pouncing stance, gripped the porcelain shard in his left hand with unnerving calm. Despite the life and death situation, there was no panic on his face. Instead, there was a quiet, resolute composure, laced with a sense of resignation that seemed too deep for someone of his young age. Qi Jingchun recognized that same look of quiet resignation. It reminded him of a farmer, squatting on parched, cracked soil during a season of drought, staring at the merciless sun. There was no fury, no despair, no indignation in the farmer's eyes, only acceptance of what could not be changed. A patient acknowledgement of the harshness of life. As the temporary overseer of this town, Qi Jingchun was intimately aware of Chen Ping'an's family history. Although he had never personally seen the boy's ancestors, Qi Jingchun could reconstruct centuries of lineage, stretching back over 1,000 years. The town itself kept meticulous records, extending outward beyond its visible boundaries, documenting the fates of families, including the prodigious talents they produced. Chen Ping'an's clan had once lived in wealth and prominence, but through tumultuous and unforeseen events, it had fallen into decline on the eastern treasured Vile continent. By the time Chen Ping'an's father was born, the Chen clan had been in decay for over 1,000 years. Even in the vast empires surrounding them, the family had been reduced to obscurity, their resurgence seemingly impossible. Qi Jingchun had maintained strict fairness during his 60 years overseeing the town, never altering the course of anyone's fate according to personal bias. Though he possessed the ability to intervene, he chose instead to observe, letting the natural order unfold. The wealthy faced their hardships, the impoverished displayed their capacity for evil. Objectivity was his guiding principle, and through it, Qi Jingchun had become almost a deity-like presence in the town, intervening only when absolutely necessary. As he stepped closer to the scene, a hint of surprise crossed his face. Chen Ping'an had pounced toward Fu Nanhua with the intent to strike. Yet he had stopped short of killing. His wrist slammed into Fu Nanhua's neck, sending the man flying into the alley wall, a powerful impact that left him reeling. Chen Ping'an then pressed the porcelain shard against Fu Nanhua's abdomen while maintaining a grip around his throat. It was a calculated restraint, far more measured than the outright lethal force he could have used. Qi Jingchun, observing quietly, understood why Chen Ping'an had exercised such restraint. The boy had the strength, the skill, and the opportunity to end Fu Nanhua's life. Yet he chose not to. In his mind, Qi Jingchun recognized the logic of balance and fairness at work. Fu Nanhua was the kind of cultivator who would be deeply humiliated by a temporary defeat, and that internal conflict could shape future consequences in the boy's favor. Preserving life while maintaining justice. The alley seemed to freeze in time as Chen Ping'an maintained his posture, one hand on Fu Nanhua's throat, the other pressing the sharp porcelain shard into his abdomen. Fu Nanhua gasped for air, his face turning from red to blue, then purple, struggling desperately. Yet he could do nothing against the boy's unrelenting grip. He attempted to negotiate, promising half-truths and pledges to avoid breaking his word. But Chen Ping'an simply shook his head. The air thickened with tension, the sharp scent of porcelain against skin underscoring the life or death stakes. Fu Nanhua's thoughts raced. He realized that the jade belt around his waist, a relic containing the remnants of an earth dragon's soul, was useless in this instant. He began to feel his consciousness slipping, a creeping dread that this would be his end, that he would be defeated by this young boy, just as Cai Jinjian had met her fate. Then, a voice rang out, "That's enough." Chen Ping'an turned in surprise to see Qi Jingchun, glowing ethereally, standing before him. The scholar observed the boy silently, a faint smile gracing his face. Chen Ping'an did not loosen his grip, his expression remaining determined. Qi Jingchun did not react with anger or delight, he merely waved his sleeve, seemingly extracting something from Chen Ping'an's body. He opened his hand to reveal a small, ink-black ball of filth, a remnant of a planted inclination, now long dead and powerless. Qi Jingchun's expression softened as he looked at Chen Ping'an, a mixture of amusement and admiration in his eyes. "No wonder my teacher told me that for those who go on to do great things, an unshakable will is far more important than exceptional aptitude. You've taught me another valuable lesson in my teacher's stead, Chen Ping'an. Unfortunately, I am no longer in a position to be taking any more disciples." In this episode, we saw the intense confrontation between Chen Ping'an and Fu Nanhua unfold. Cai Jinjian met a tragic fate. killed abruptly by Chen Ping'an, which left Fu Nanhua both shocked and momentarily relieved. Realizing that the obstacles in his path had unexpectedly been removed, Chen Ping'an demonstrated incredible skill, restraint, and composure beyond his years, handling a life or death situation with clarity and precision. We also witnessed the intervention of Qi Jingchun, the wise and observant sage of the town, who recognized Chen Ping'an's unshakable will and ensured fairness, preventing unnecessary bloodshed while guiding the outcome in a subtle yet decisive way. These events highlighted Chen Ping'an's resilience, intelligence, and latent potential, marking another step in his journey through danger, morality, and survival. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Sword of Coming. If you enjoyed this episode or found it intriguing, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to get notified of the latest episodes following the journey of Chen Ping'an. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.